What is up, YouTube? It is Angelo from Fear the Beard Football Channel. Made a video earlier today covering the NFC East. I told you guys I was going to be bringing on a guest. This is Bradley Shuford here. He is one of my good friends. Work with him. How you doing today, man?
Pretty good, man. Happy to be here. Let's get into some football.
I know, man. So today we're going to be talking about, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about the great debate between Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
And I figured like this would be the kind of the next video that I cover, and I kind of wanted to bring somebody else in so I could kind of get their opinion and just, I feel like this is something that deserves kind of like that back and forth type deal. So without further ado, here we go. So just to start out, I'm going to go on ahead and just jot down the, say the stats between the two.
Okay.
And then I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of give our own little spin on it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and just see who we would like long term and maybe even in the short term. So first off, I'm going to start with Lamar Jackson. We know that, Joe Flacco basically, you remember when he went down a couple years ago?
Yeah, kind of got pushed out, yeah.
Yeah, and then, they were definitely calling for Lamar Jackson, and they were, what were they, like 4-5 or something like that, I think it was? Or
yeah, right when he went down, and then, since the record was so bad, it was a good time to see Lamar, him step in and see what he had in the tank, and then it's just sky's the limit from there.
Yeah. And because they were, them, they've always got a good defense. I'm just going to set that down for, but they've always had a good defense, and that was what was kind of sustaining them. But the lackluster quarterback play from Joe Flacco is what was really holding them back.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy I don't like to really bash on people because these are the greatest players in the world.
So are you saying you're taking Lamar Jackson? Is that where you're going with it, or you just?
I'm just saying they needed something like a bolt of energy, and they got that with him. Because they went 6-1 and down the stretch, and during that time, Lamar, the numbers right here, 1,200 passing yards. He had I think it was 58% of his passes, 6 passing touchdowns. And then he ran for 695 yards, and he had 5, rushing touchdowns. But that was the spark that they were missing. And what I really truly liked about that when they did make that transition is it wasn't just that they switched quarterbacks; they switched their whole entire game.
Yeah.
But they became a whole different.
You had to. Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson, both of them. No pun intended. If Lamar Jackson doesn't get hurt, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Joe Flacco is a Hall of Fame quarterback, in my opinion, from what he came from. So, you had to switch your offense because they're two completely different quarterbacks, but they're great quarterbacks.
Yeah. And, that's the thing, because, Joe Flacco, like you said, I think he's someone that can definitely be in the conversation for Hall of Fame, for sure. So I'm not going to take anything away from you on that. But yeah, the man came from Delaware, and I remember coming out during the combine, and he had threw I think it was a 65-yard pass, or no, it was a 72-yard pass he threw, and it was he had a cannon for an arm.
Yeah, he had a cannon on it. That's what he had going for him.
Yeah.
Big, strong quarterback. He was your typical quarterback, what you wanted your quarterback to be in that generation. Big quarterback, could take a hit, had a cannon for an arm. But now I think we're kind of seeing the new evolution of quarterback, which is the Patrick Mahomes and the Lamar Jacksons. That goes to my take. I think both of them are great quarterbacks, but Mahomes, I think, is just the future of the NFL. I kind of think Aaron Rodgers 2.0. He can do everything Aaron can do, but he's got more speed than Aaron. He reminds me kind of like Brett Favre, how he slings the ball. He's making passes that we haven't seen before, behind the back passes. I've seen him take it from different angles and get it all the way downfield. And I'm taking him. I like Lamar Jackson, but I'm taking Pat Mahomes just because you're down in the game. You need a game-winning drive. Sometimes you can't do it all the way with your legs, and he can beat you either way. He's a double threat, which Lamar Jackson does. You said he had 58% passing, but the way Pat Mahomes puts the ball in certain places, I don't think is anything that we can compare him to. So right now, the first year, we thought that he could maybe get to the Super Bowl. He didn't. Him being at the age he's at now, he's already got a Super Bowl ring. Aaron Rodgers is at the end of his career. People don't talk about how old he is, but he's only got 1 ring. Pat Mahomes already has that going for him as young as he is. So if he gets 1 or 2 more, you're already talking about him as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever played the game. Behind, in my personal opinion, Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? If he gets a couple more rings. And as young as they are, if you don't get people wanting greedy, wanting their money and everything like that, which they do deserve it, I think they have a shot to get a couple of rings and be a dynasty out there in Kansas City.
No, and like, dude, I'm 100% with you because, like, you know, I mean, I know I'm getting into the numbers with Lamar Jackson because, like, we know the type of season he just came off of.
Yeah.
You know, 36 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, 1,200 rushing yards, and, you know, the first since Michael Vick to run for over 1,000. And yeah, like, you're right, we are getting to that new age quarterback. But I'm 100% with you. I'm on the spectrum with you where I'm like, I think even right now, Mahomes is the better option, and I definitely think long term, like. And I hate it when, you know, because this is what really gets under my skin with the debate with like the running quarterback is like, you know, people tend to forget that, you know, the reason why these guys are becoming quarterbacks for longer periods of time is because, you know, look at Tom Brady and Breeze and what their game is. They're in the pocket, you know. And that's why, like, Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes has sustainability in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's already on par with him. I mean, yes, Lamar Jackson blew him out the water in fantasy, but they were just as efficient, you know, in my opinion.
And a big thing, not to cut you off, but a big thing is with Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes goes with me. If we're talking about long term, we're talking about durability.
Yeah.
I think we all remember when RG3 came out, we thought he was going to be the next best thing. He was better than Luck. I heard that, everybody saying this, which, I mean, Luck ended his career early just because of concussions and how he was doing everything. But durability goes a long way. And Lamar Jackson isn't a big guy. I think he's a little bit bigger than Vic, but if he takes a couple of those hits being outside the pocket, like over 10 years, can you take those hits over 10 years? So if Pat Mahomes' leg gives out or his knee or something like that goes, he has the intangibles to sit back in the pocket and still be a productive NFL quarterback, which a lot of running quarterbacks don't. So that's why I think he's the complete package. He has so much arm talent that he could go toe-to-toe with anybody in the league. And running, I think he can just run about with anybody in the league other than somebody like Lamar Jackson or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's definitely my thing with Patrick Mahomes is what I like about his gameplay is, and you know this because we've talked about this, I like the guy who he's not looking to run. Like, he can run, he has mobility, but he's always looking to pass. Like Russell Wilson, this is why Russell Wilson to me is like the best quarterback in the NFL. And he carries such a weak team, but the man, like, he's running around in the pocket, he's eluding all these people, but what he's doing is he's extending the play to try to see if he can find a guy that's open. If he can't,
versus just running by
versus just running. That's always the last thing, because if worse comes to worse, it's either going to be like he's either going to throw it out of the bounds, survive another down, or, you know, he might try to see if he can safely pick up 6 yards. But that's the thing, safely.
Yeah. And another rule, the Tom Brady rule, like no hitting below the knees and different things like that, I think it sets these quarterbacks up. In the receiver rules, you can't really touch them. So I think it sets these quarterbacks up to have longer careers and have better inflated numbers.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you can grab the receivers, push them around. You can hit somebody over the middle where they're not catching the ball. Nowadays, you can catch that ball in the middle. You're not getting as much hands put on you. The quarterback's more protective because they know that's the face of the league. If the Kansas City Chiefs loses Patrick Mahomes, I mean, they're still a good team, but that's the face of the team. They're trying to protect their franchise player. So the NFL set up to where they protect the franchise players, so these guys are going to have longevity in their careers more so than they did in the past. So, like, when it comes down to it, I like Lamar Jackson, but Pat Mahomes, I think he's the quarterback of the future. I don't see too many. He's a unique talent. I don't really like to compare him to somebody, but the closest thing I can compare him to is Aaron, because his mobility and his way to pass the ball. I really don't see nobody else having that package deal the way he has.
Yeah. No, and I'm with you, and that's the thing, man. Like, I think nowadays, like, and this is what really bothers me is, like, you know, I feel like somebody would take something as what we're saying as, like, you know, that Lamar Jackson isn't as good. You know, my thing is like, there's a difference between, like, you know, being, like, he's good for a time, because he is going to be good for a time, but then when he hits a certain age, it's just not there.
Yeah.
Whereas Pat Mahomes, he's going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And he does have a chance to have the next dynasty.
No, I'm saying with Lamar Jackson, he's just going to have to prove it. So we haven't seen the quarterback get into his late 30s that's moving around and stuff like that. If they can't.
Well, the closest one's Cam. I mean,
Cam.
And he just hit 30.
He just hit 30, and I like to go back. One of my personal favorites, Donovan McNabb. He could run, but he wasn't running like Patrick. I mean, he wasn't running like those guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was a mobile quarterback. But Lamar Jackson, you can see he's learning after he got to the NFL. His passing percentage, and he's getting better during games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's growing during the season. Like that first season with Flacco, he had half a season. Then the second one, he was like out of this world. like an MVP talent type.
Well, and that's my thing. Why, like, what? Because he had an inflated pass percentage. It got up to, I think, 66% this year.
Yeah.
You know, compared to 58%. And how much of that is skewed because of the fact that they're constantly running the ball, and you've really got to account for that. Because I mean, you got to understand that opens up so many different things when you know, like, this is the first team to average 200 rushing yards. The Ravens last year were the first team in like 30 years to average 200 yards a game. It was a crazy stat, and I remember it coming across ESPN. But yeah, like,
I mean, it's hard to prepare for it. You got a split back system, not even a split back system, where you got RG3, Mark Ingram, and Lamar Jackson in the backfield. That's 3 Heisman Trophy winners in the backfield at one time. You have to account for all of them. All of them's a threat to hit the home run for you in the back. So then you got the receivers wide open.
Yeah, I mean, you got Hollywood Brown right over there on the outside.
You can hit people wide open. Hollywood Brown, the way he's running, these receivers, these young receivers, they're just getting better too. So, like, if they end up getting a veteran receiver or something like that can run routes and do a little bit better than these younger receivers, that might help them out a little bit. And I think these young receivers are growing into their own, so you're going to see them get better.
Yeah.
It's an up-and-coming team. The thing I like about the Ravens is they're nowhere near hitting their ceiling, and they could still win a championship with where they are.
Yeah.
And they're nowhere near hitting their ceiling. It's scary how good they can be.
Well, and they got a lot better too, because I love, like, and I'm sorry to cut you off,
No,
but
you're good.
But yeah, we're doing the whole back and forth thing. But yeah, man, like, honestly, dude, like, I love the Patrick Queen pickup in the draft with middle linebacker, and then getting Calais Campbell for nothing short of a box of Fruit Loops was like, was like the greatest addition that they could have ever had. So this is a top 5 defense that just got better, and like that's like the hardest thing to do when you're that level is to get better, and they did. But that's my thing, is like, is Lamar Jackson going to be sustainable? Because you were right with RG3. Like, now Lamar hasn't had those type of health concerns, but it's very easy in the NFL. And also, like, is that type of play, not just for Lamar Jackson, but is that type of play for the Ravens sustainable to, like, run that much and be successful? That's always my thing, because the NFL always figures it out, you know what I mean?
You talked about fantasy. What do you do with fantasy? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
You want to handcuff running backs.
Yeah.
Reason being, because your running back gets hurt, you got the backup going. If your quarterback is your running back, and I'm not saying he can't be like a quarterback, sit back there and throw, but if your quarterback is your running back, if he runs that much too, he takes the risk of getting hurt.
Yeah.
And you don't want your franchise quarterback getting hurt. I know you got RG3 back there and whatever, but you don't want Lamar Jackson getting hurt. So they're going to have to limit some of these runs moving forward, which a lot of these runs, some of them are playing, but a lot of them are off the fly. The spectacular ones are off the fly, where he's running through the middle of the field, making people miss and scoring. But people's not going to miss every time. We're going to have to see how he responds to those hits, how his body responds to those hits after he does get hit. So it's a body thing, and it's a mindset thing. If he gets hurt, we're going to have to see how he responds. He starts running a little bit skittish, or how he is in the pocket. I think that happened to RG3. I think he was seeing ghosts before people got there, so he couldn't hit people, like, even before somebody got to him in the backfield.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to see that, and we're going to see that. We've seen a taste of Lamar Jackson. We're going to see that, I think, in this upcoming NFL season, just because he got his first full season last year. This is going to be his second full season. So this is going to be like make or break. Show me for real. Was that, I know, a little bit inflated numbers. I don't expect him to have an MVP season, which was amazing, but we're going to see if he's the real deal or not this year.
Yeah, and I mean, like, with his type of play, because, like, he only threw for 3,600 yards last year.
Yeah.
For someone like him, I mean, and it's really funny. He doesn't rush for, like, a whole lot of touchdowns.
When you rush for 1,000 yards, and I mean, if you can rush for 1,000 yards, throwing for 3,600 yards, that kind of evens out. And then the touchdown thing, he's not a big guy, so they're not running him much at the goal line.
Yeah.
You see Cam getting all these touchdowns because you go run Cam inside the 5. And
I'm 100% with you. And I was like, I kind of think it's so funny, because you look at those increased numbers and, like, you'd almost expect. But, like, yeah, and he's dangerous even without getting all the rushing touchdowns. What I'm saying is, like, with the type of, like, numbers I'd like to respectively see him put up after having such an inflated year like that, because that's not repeatable, like we just said.
Yeah,
but, like,
exactly. And it doesn't mean that he's not a great quarterback just because he doesn't complete those or repeat those numbers.
Yeah.
Because people don't repeat numbers like that.
No, he's basically like, I mean, if you had to really put it in words, it's almost like the same variation but of a different thing. You know, like, he's a great quarterback just in a different, complete way. You know what I mean? But I want to be able to see him, like, do this for long term, because, you know, going back through the years, like, I know you mentioned McNabb. Like, yeah, he was mobile. You know, like, the only one we've really truly seen that could compare to him that had, like, longevity is really just you know, you had Cam. There's Vic.
You think about Vic. Vic's career was cut short
But the prison, yeah.
Yeah, you know, he got arrested. That was 2 years that he didn't play football. Then he just came right back. And when he came back,
Well, and he was never truly the starter, but only for like a year and a half in Philadelphia.
and when he came back, when he ended up being the starter, they was amazing for that little bit of time.
Yeah.
So you think about all the time that he was locked up, where they could have been with Atlanta.
Yeah.
Who knows what they could have did?
Well, and that's the thing is like, but what his like, you know, because he spent most of his life as a backup after all that, like, you know, and even a little bit before, but because like I said, there was like a year and a half, I think 2.5 year stretch where he was the starter, but yeah, like he never had, I think, you know, and he was only like, what, with the Falcons 2 or 3 years before this happened, I think, because he came in 04 and all this happened in like 06, so he didn't have a whole lot of time, but, you know, you got your Randall Cunninghams, you got your Steve Youngs, and they were like that, but we've just never truly seen someone actually sustain a full career of 8 to 10 plus years of legit just like running like he does. And because Cam, even he throws, he only runs maybe at his peak was running 14 times a game, which was an alarming rate. But
Cam is nowhere near the passer Mahomes.
Oh yeah,
like it's a different strategy, and I like Cam. It's a different stratosphere as far as the throws that he can make. I wouldn't even ask Cam to make some of the throws that like Patrick Mahomes is making.
Oh yeah. No, and I mean, I'm completely with you because we've been fairly like, I mean, I'm not 100% like know where you're at with Cam, but I mean, like we've discussed it. And I mean, like I at least respect your opinion on everything, you know, like, but yeah, no, that's my thing. I believe in Mahomes more because of the longevity. I think that like, you know, it's basically like, you know, splitting hairs when you're talking about what they are right now. But to me, you've got to understand that, yeah, Mahomes just for long term is great. So
bottom line is, when you think about it, man, the NFL is in good hands. You see one generation going out, like, I want to say one generation, but it's generation after generation. Tom Brady's been there for God knows how many generations that was. You see Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, those guys like flaming out. Peyton Manning was done a couple years earlier. People like Joe Flacco and them's gone. And then you see what's coming up in the NFL now, and it looks like the NFL's in good hands for years to come. You have your young quarterbacks like Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I want to, if he can stay healthy, which a lot of people don't like Wentz, but I do. If he can stay healthy, the things he can do, I think he's really talented. But you got a lot of young and up-and-coming quarterbacks, so the league's in good hands coming up, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely with agreeing with you, and I can't wait to see what the next 5 to 10 years is going to be like in the NFL. Guys, I guess that's going to wrap up our video for tonight. So, you know, hey, man, I just want to say real quick, thank you for coming on. Like,
appreciate you having me.
I can't wait to have you on again, buddy.
All right.
Y'all have a great night. Stay Rona free.